Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Future of Golf podcast. This is the podcast where we interview the brightest founders in the game of golf. This week is no exception. We're joined by Dathan Wong, who is the co-founder of Noteefy, which, if you were at the PGA Show last week, was the app that was taking the place by storm last week. Dathan, it was a pleasure to meet you and your team. I'm sure you had a crazy week since the show. How are things?
Yeah, hey, it was great to meet you and your team as well. Thanks for reaching out originally. Yeah, everything's been amazing since the PGA show. Very busy as one might expect, but it was such a great event for our team to show up to and kind of be rewarded for all of the hard work. Hearing all of the validation from all of our customers, our partners, supporters like you. Really just hearing that from people was so great for the team morale, and it was great to just meet everybody and be together and do things together.
Yeah, and we had a little chat before we went live here. You obviously had a really busy week. You played Cabot Citrus Farms, newly launched course. If anyone was there at the PGA show, it seemed like everyone was at the event at Top Golf that night where you held the party as well. Um, what was that week like in general? Just to seem like so much was going on. Do you want to maybe touch on maybe Citrus Farms first? What that was like?
Yeah, absolutely. We came into that week really just like our goal as a team was just to like bond as a team. We're a fully remote company. We
Right.
haven't all met in person. We've all met individuals in different places, but never been all together. So that was a really great bonding experience. We got in like Saturday night and Sunday. We got to play Cabot Citrus Farms. They're one of our newest customers that launched a month or two ago. They just opened to the public January 27th, and it was such a treat for us. They invited us out to play before it opened to the public. We were one of like four groups that were out on the course at the time, so it just felt like a private course experience, and obviously it was a beautiful place. So that was awesome. That was a really great time. We all bought like so much merch from the pro shop too, so easily covered the fees for the round. I think. But yeah, after that, it was just a lot of team building and team stuff, trying to figure out our plans for the upcoming year, the upcoming quarters, and then just grinding at the PGA show, working the booth, talking to people, talking to partners, setting up meetings with past customers, potential future customers, and like you alluded to, that party at Top Golf was amazing too.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about the remote working culture. I think, for a lot of people, they might not be able to relate to that, right? Like, I mean, from our perspective, our whole team is remote as well. So it's just like the normal to not see people day to day. Maybe touch on that, like what it was like to be able to be in person for each other that week and also use that as a bit of a launch pad going into 2024.
Yeah, I mean, we're a tech company, and personally, I could never see myself in an office again. You got errands to run, you got things you need to do like at home. So obviously, remote work has been a pretty nice little treat since COVID. A good thing, I guess, as well as the golf boom that has come out of COVID. But because we don't get to spend a lot of time in person, we've never seen each other play golf, and we're a golf company, and we all love golf. So that was really cool to kind of rip each other's swings a little and bet a little money against each other. But just really just it's those moments when you're just like eating lunch together or post round, we're just talking about the round, having a drink together. Those kind of things you just don't get in a remote environment. So being able to build that like that team culture was just so valuable, and it was so cool to just see like how everybody is so different, but how everybody has their unique strengths and how people get along and interact with each other. And it's those like private conversations that you're having with somebody. Like I'm on the engineering team obviously, and talking to some of the business guys, like you don't really have these little private conversations all the time in a remote company.
Hmm. Yeah, it's super interesting that you mentioned that it's the gray areas that you often miss over. So your efficiency as a remote team might be awesome, but it's the little personal parts. And it's interesting you mentioned you'd never seen them golf either, which I'm sure would have been a fun experience. But Dathan, so I mean, this whole project hasn't really been running for that long, really. And I'm sure a lot of people are aware that you've made quite a mark in resort courses, especially, and really becoming kind of like the go to personal assistant for booking tea times. So I would love to know maybe the origin story, first of all, in terms of like how you guys met. What was like the initial pain point, and what was your kind of first steps to actually making this a reality?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the origin of this was really Jake and I trying to solve our own problems, right? We actually hadn't met until started working on Noteefy. But obviously, post COVID, both of us living in LA, just impossible to get a tea time. We knew there had to be a better way. Um, Something like this was actually something that I was going to build just for myself and me and my friends. As a software engineer by trade, I was like, look, this is easily solvable problem by software. Like, let me just do it for myself and so I can play golf. Um, then Jake was actually running like Facebook or Instagram ads. I forgot which one it was for what would eventually become Noteefy. I responded to one of the ads being like, hey, I've been thinking about this myself. I've been wanting to build something like this. Like, I don't really care who does it. Like, I just want this thing to exist. So I was like, I sent them this
Sure.
whole email of probably like 20 or 30 things that his current product needed to be better. We got on a couple calls together, played some golf together, just got to talking about the problem and how we wanted to solve it, and it just really hit it off from there.
That's awesome. And actually, just before this podcast, I caught a bit of Jack's podcast. I think it was like 6 months ago. And so he kind of described the problem of him being a golfer. He had all these courses to play, and he would spend like an hour or two, like flicking between tabs to kind of check that his tee time was bookable. Now, I guess maybe being Irish, I kind of take this for granted. There's only a finite number of courses you can play in Ireland, even though there is a bunch. And also being a golf, I was a member of a golf course, so I was kind of like guaranteed my tee time every Saturday. Um, do you want to maybe paint that picture of like what it was like to book a tee time in LA? I'm particularly interested in that.
Oh my gosh. So, first thing to know about LA and I guess the US in general, but LA in particular is if there's traffic and you're trying to go like maybe it's 10 miles or what is that, 15 kilometers, 16 kilometers, like that could take you an hour. So my
Right.
pool of which golf courses I could play in, even though there are kind of a lot within a 20-30 mile radius, if I don't want to spend 2 hours driving home on the way back, like it's a very small number of golf courses. So what I would have to do is 9 days before the tee times are released, I have to wake up at like 5:50 a.m. and they get released at 6 a.m. So I'm just waiting. And if my
Right.
internet's not fast enough or I fall back asleep for 1 minute, I'm not getting a tee time. Um, but inevitably there'd be a lot of cancellations throughout the week, right? The way people seem to book here is everybody's just booking right when they get released, and then they'll start dropping them as they figure out, okay, their friends can't come or whatever, we can't get a fourth for this time. So to get those notifications or to get those tee times, I would have 4 or 5 tabs. I'm trying to work. I got a full-time job. I need to do some coding. I got meetings, but I got 4 or 5 tabs just refreshing them every 5 minutes or whatever it is to see if something popped up, even just for a single for myself. And it just didn't make sense, right? Like this is a software problem, and that's what we have created was a software solution for this to help busy people like you and I be able to just book tea times and not worry about like just refreshing pages or calling the pro shop.
That is, it's so interesting, and it's I can really clearly see the origin story now. The only comparable I can think of is actually my co-founder Jamie. You might have met him when we were out there. Every Saturday, there was a competition on at our home club. So you basically had to book your tea time for the Saturday by Wednesday night. So the tea times would go live at like I want to say it was like 7:30, something like that. So all the members would sit on their keypads at 7:29, ready to go. But Jamie, being a software engineer, built a little algorithm which would pre-book his tee time. It was all going well for him. He got his tee times booked for him and his four ball for like a year. And then I think the golf club found out eventually that he was doing that, and it didn't go down too well
Oh
with the
no.
council. And unfortunately had to stop. But really interesting. Like, this is obviously a lot more ethical way of doing things, and this is purely above board. But interesting that it was the same problem point, but the LA traffic is also something I didn't consider as well. Like, where most of the courses you're wanting to play, like, is there only a certain amount you can really play inside your radius? I suppose.
Look, I mean, I've driven out 2 or 3 hours before to go play a round of golf with some friends. Like I'll do it, but I mean, I got a wife and dog at home. Like I can't be gone all day every weekend, and it's just there's so many golfers here too, especially if you're playing some of these munis. If you don't get out between like 6 a.m. and like 7:30 a.m., it's a 5, 6 hour round on top of the 1 hour, 2 hours in traffic you're driving home. So your
Right.
whole morning or whole day is just shot from that. And as a busy professional, that's just not how I want to live my life.
So obviously, the points we've touched on there, Dathan, is very much focused on the, I guess, consumer side of the problem. So not being able to book tea times, frustrations with having to drive hours. From my research on you guys, it seems that you are operator focused and you're more focused on the golf clubs. Was there an equivocal pain point that the golf clubs were facing as well? And if so, what was it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. Our primary customer really is the golf course. They're the ones paying us. It's totally free for any golfers, and the pain points we solve for them, right, are one efficiencies in the pro shop. How many times are they picking up the phone because somebody's asking about a 6 a.m. tea time on a Saturday that there's like, well, no, like it's never been available, like stop calling. But what is the operator supposed to do other than just have that conversation every single time? Notify comes in and gives them an option now. The operator can be like, hey, like, sorry, nothing available right now, but get on this automated wait list. You'll be the first to know, one of the first to know whenever the tee time becomes available, and then you can book. That makes sure that the golfer stays at your golf course and doesn't go somewhere else or just maybe just doesn't golf at all, right? So that's one of the pain points. The other one is obviously there are last minute cancellations. Those add up to quite a lot of lost revenue if they cannot be filled. So there's a revenue play here where we're just driving more last minute bookings. We're driving more revenue for the golf course, as well as an efficiency play.
Makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense if you can satisfy golfers as well. I think that's a big point that I maybe didn't pick up on, because if you're a golfer and you ring up and you don't get a tee time, then you're almost, your instinct is to boycott that course and then look elsewhere. Um, and I've actually been there a few times now. Um, I guess maybe what I would like to dive into is, obviously you had this idea, and now I've seen your success in the PGA Show, and that big week that you had. Maybe let's dive into like the middle part. So what did the, like, acquiring your first customers look like? What was that discovery phase look like before things actually started ramping up for you, Dathan?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think at this point, there's definitely kind of a critical mass, right? We are feeling a lot of momentum, and there's a lot of maybe FOMO from other golf courses seeing their partners down the streets using Notify. Um, but my co-founder Jake Gordon is just an amazing people person. He's a great connector. He's very analytical in that sense of being able to like find who we need to talk to, find who we need to sell to, and just like he's just a good guy. So people want to talk to them. People want to get to know him. And that's where it really started. Was he was just doing cold LinkedIn messages, sending emails to whoever would listen, and he really did a great job being able to connect us with some of these multi-course operators as well as some local courses around the LA area that really were willing to give us a chance and really believed in our team and the vision that we were selling.
Hmm. And I'm intrigued as well. That's a cool story in your team, by the way. But so you saw a link or a Facebook ad, was it that Jack was running, and you responded to it. What were the things that you picked up that were not in the product currently that you thought, hey, there's an opportunity here? And this is not a dig at Jack, by the way. This is more to see, what you identified. Jack, if you're watching, no hate on you.
um, no, it's a great question. You know, I've been in the startup world for a while. I'm a tech, I'm a product guy. Like I've like this is what I do, right? I build products, I solve problems. Um, I think Jake comes more from the finance and the business world and consulting world. So when I initially saw the product, there were a lot of particular like UI UX things that needed improvement. That's user interface and user experience. So like the flow of the data. I got on a call with the team that he was working with originally, and asked a lot of like deep technical architecture questions like how do you handle these scenarios, how do you scale for this kind of traffic, how do you avoid these security holes, things like that. So those are the kind of things that I was asking about, on top of just like, hey, when I click this button nothing happened. Like, you guys should
Right.
probably take a look at that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny in our journey. I mean, I have a similar story. So obviously I'm the non-technical hat of our team. And myself and Ryan were working on some wireframes, and then there was just a giant, I would call, debugging process to like, and Jamie came in and really simplified things for us because we had a very wide product that wasn't particularly functional in any one element for golf clubs. And Jamie had the technical knowledge to come in and simplify our app. And it seems like you were able to do the same there. Um, Now, obviously, you've been on, it seems like a meteoric journey over the last, 12 to 18 months there. Is there any moments, because you say you've reached a critical mass, right, where there is some sort of referral mechanism that's now happening, golf clubs want to be involved with you? Was there a particular moment where you went, aha, we're on the right track? Or was it just a gradual rise of demand?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we had always been getting a lot of good feedback from golfers, right? We would do user calls. We would just reach out to we would see somebody, hey, had like 20 searches for this golf course. We'd be like, okay, this guy seems to like Noteefy. Like, what can we ask him? And just get feedback from there. And it was always very positive, which was great from the golfer perspective. Um, Once we felt very validated from the operator perspective was when they're like, hey, especially with some of the MCOs that we're partnered with, they're like, we want to go out to more courses. Like this, it killed it at, we're in Chambers Bay, Black Gold golf course near LA. A lot of other courses across the country were just seeing so much success, and we were able to validate that success as well with a confirmed booking revenue number. Like how much revenue do we feel was attributed to Noteefy based on the data that we had. So once we could see those numbers and give that feedback to these operators, I think that really was like, look, we're onto something. They need this. They're getting a lot of their golfers going to them and saying how thankful they are that Noteefy exists now because it was so annoying before. We had GMs that were reaching out to other GMs proactively for us and just giving us these glowing reviews. Um, yeah, it was, I don't know if there was a moment, but it was just all of this constant feedback that we were really listening to and really in tune to. Um, Getting that feedback from all of these different parties, like all of these different people that we want to serve, was just so validating. We're like, all right, this is it. Like this one feels different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, everything from your story seems incredibly positive, right? Like it seems that, you had an idea, you guys met through the Facebook ad, and then it just kind of took off from there. Now, being in the startup world as well, I know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are tough times. Was there any Has there been any challenges so far when you've building this product? Now that can be technical challenges, that can be team challenges. Obviously, whatever you're comfortable going into, but maybe some of the more difficult parts of your journey would be interesting to hear.
Look, I think you make a really good point. As a founder, whenever you're talking about it, you always emphasize the good stuff. But look, it was a lot of work. It was just really Jake and I at the start of this whole thing. It was just me on the technical side. So if there were any issues, like I'm working, and I had a full-time job when we first started. I was doing this. This was like a side hustle. I didn't necessarily realize that it was going to be what it was, what it became. But like it was just a lot of long hours. It's stressful, especially in your personal life. You have other family responsibilities. You have to do chores. You have things that you just need to take care of, and that was definitely a struggle at the start. But now that we've able to build a team, we've been seeing some success. We have money to hire more people. Like a challenge that I'm running into now, obviously being somebody who used to do everything, is being more comfortable delegating things, trusting the team. And we have an amazing team. Like it's a me problem if I don't trust them to deliver and to do what needs to get done. But that's another struggle that I struggle with. And I don't know, I'm sure you're the same way as a founder, as a probably a very competitive person. Like you want to be a part of everything. You want to have control over everything. And that's a big struggle for me.
Yes, so relatable what you mentioned there in that last sentence. Like maybe some of the people watching this podcast have wore the founder hat as well, and I think from it being birthed of your idea, you kind of want to have your hands in everything, but there does reach a point, especially where you're at, where that just doesn't scale. It just doesn't work. So you have to build a team to trust them. And yeah, that's something I'm still working on myself as well. Now, luckily, I'm not technical. So me putting my hands in something technical is absolutely pointless. So it's easy to discipline myself in that one. But I appreciate you sharing some of the challenges because it can be it can be very alluring to see you guys holding these parties, but people might not appreciate the hard work that has went behind this as well. And
Yeah.
the story you mentioned there of working as a part time founder and balancing a full time job is something a lot of people can relate to as well.
And I think everybody, a lot of entrepreneurial people have this dream, right? But you have to be practical at the end of the day. You gotta make money to take care of the people you care about. You can't always just take that leap. But you know, I will say, as somebody who just loves golf, it definitely makes all of the stressful times a lot better. Like I'm working on something that I truly love and truly care about, and the people I'm helping, I'm helping myself for one, but I'm helping my friends who also love to golf. I've tried to start other companies in the past, but what was always missing was that founder market fit, and I just didn't really care about those problems. But caring now about this so much, it makes it so much easier. It makes it worth it staying up until 4 a.m. troubleshooting some bugs or whatever that is. It's just there's a lot of I wake up every day just excited to work and to do what I need to do.
Hmm. It's a good point, and even going around the other booths in the PGA show and hearing the background stories of founders of other companies, golf's a cool one because usually they're golfers and they've solved something for themselves. Whether they worked at a driving range and they didn't want to pick up golf balls all day, so they built a robot to go around and pick it up, or various other stories I heard. There's usually a pretty cool origin story, and at least golf is something that people do genuinely really enjoy. Like you wouldn't go out in a golf course for 5 hours and spend your entire day doing it if you didn't have a degree of enthusiasm around the sport, or maybe drive through 3 hours of LA traffic to to play as well in your specific scenario. But you don't need to know because you got Noteefy, of course.
There you
um,
go.
there you go. Obviously we mentioned there the challenges that you faced. I would love to know in this journey so far, maybe excluding the PGA Show week because that was obviously incredible. Was there any moments where you felt just euphoria and just incredibly grateful for what you've created?
Oh man. Yeah, it's kind of cliche, but I guess every day. But actually, I got a better one. It's as we've been hiring, building the engineering team, building the kind of what we're calling our go to market team, the business side of things. Just like hearing from the people that we work with that they love what they do as well, and that this company also feels different. I've been in a lot of companies, big companies, small companies, so culture is really important to me, and making sure that people enjoy what they're doing and people don't feel like they just have to grind at work all the time is really important to me. So just hearing that from our people at the PGA Show, or in our weekly one-on-ones, that they do feel different about this company and they do enjoy coming to work every day, that makes me feel good. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like obviously we would love to make money and have a good exit and whatnot as a startup, but at the end of the day, for me, it's all about people, man, and just helping people, and just I don't know, just trying to leave the world in a better place than you came into it. So
No better mission than that. Yeah, I was. That's an interesting one as far as culture because you're not in person, right? So,
yeah.
like the obvious thing for a golf company would be install a simulator in your office and like play 18 holes of Pebble Beach every morning. That would be a real obvious one. Um, how are you guys tackling building a great culture around a golf company while all being in different locations? Do you have any strategies you're trying?
Yeah, we obviously are going to try to get together as much as we can and just play golf, right? Like get together and just have fun together instead of trying to get together and work. Like we'll work when we're remote. It's probably a little easier that way as well. But also we have $100 per month golf like stipend, so you can spend it on anything you want golf related. I mean, we have a chat where we're just kind of roasting each other about, we follow each other on 18 birdies or whatever apps that are out there, and you can see their scores, and we're just roasting each other's handicaps and whatnot. Um, but I think those are like the perks of the job of working in golf, right? Being able to play golf for free or having it subsidized, whatever that means. But to me, the culture comes more about like those day to day interactions. Like I truly believe that like, hey, everybody's an adult. Like if you need time to do whatever you need to do, maybe you're sick, you got to take care of some personal business. I don't need to know about it. Just let me know that you need that time, and we'll work around it. I think just having that trust in people, and giving that giving them that space to do good work is really all it takes to build kind of a good culture.
Yeah, and I think I mean I'm seeing this reflected in other of my friends' growing companies as well. It seems the modern approach of trust first and trust until proven otherwise, as opposed to micromanagement, and then people don't have autonomy to make decisions or like try and maybe feel at things. They don't have room to experiment. So it's interesting to hear you're also approaching it in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great point. Like, look, we're a small company. Like, you're gonna be responsible for a lot of different things. Like, at the end of the day, I have to trust you, right? Or because you need to do 20 different things. It's not just coding, but really giving people the space to fail, whatever that means to you. I think is really important. Like it's okay to make mistakes. Like it's fine. It's your first week on the job or your first month on the job. You're gonna make mistakes, whatever that is. Like it's totally fine.
That's awesome. So, Dathan, I think that was a fascinating insight into your story with Noteefy. I think a lot of people have really enjoyed that. If there's any either golfers or golf course operators who want to have a little check into what you guys are doing right now, where should they go online to find more information or connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to notify.app, if you're a golf course interested in bringing this to your golf course, there's a request a demo section. Go ahead and just fill out that form, and one of our teammates will reach out to you. You can always feel free to reach out to me directly as well. I'm just Dathan at noteefy.app. That's DATHAN at noteefy.app. But yeah, always happy to talk and share and learn more about other people in the industry also.
Awesome, wonderfully fit. Yeah, Dathan, if I don't see you before the PGA show next year, I hope that there's continued success for you and your team. And yeah, maybe next year we can get a round of golf somewhere as well and roast each other's swings, maybe.
Let's do it, man. Yeah, let me know. Stay in touch. I'm happy to help in any way that I can.